The first thing I wrote down was humble beginnings. You know, we all come from, we both come from humble beginnings. How was it for you growing up? And you know, we share a lot of similarities. You know, both of our fathers were very, very known in the Bahamas where we grew up. So obviously there was expectations placed on both of us. How was it growing up in your household?
You know, I had double the dose of the expectation, because not only was it my father who was well known, it was also my grandfather. And so when I wasn't getting that pressure to be what my father was, I was getting that pressure to be what my grandfather was. And there was just always that looming legacy of the Thompson name. And that always seemed so present in everything I wanted to do. You know, I went through this little phase when I was younger where I used to wear the do-rags and the bandanas. And you know, you're looking at a young pastor's kid like, why are you wearing those things? Like, your dad wouldn't be happy with that. Your grandfather would be so upset if they saw you wearing those things. But, you know, again, that's a part of that emerging. Because while there is that legacy that's always existing, we are still trying to develop our personalities at the same time. And I kind of liken it to a very good show. And for those who are at the table at lunch, we were talking about a very popular show about now, Power. Sometimes you start off with a bang season, and then season number 2, you have different characters. And you watch how those characters develop through the differing seasons, and so it's not like you're trying to emulate this one. That was just the framework for what you can now become. And so I think that was a pivotal point for me to understand that I don't have to exactly copy and paste this. I can just use this as a stepping stone to now further find out who I am and see how I can use what was already given to me to do so much more. Yeah, so I think what was interesting for me when you were speaking today was also understanding that when you grow up, the pressure to fill some shoes was very prevalent for you as well. And I know since we kind of share the same history, for lack of a better term, you know, being pastors' kids, what for you was one of the pivotal moments? I know you talk about when you actually started working with your father, but I wanted to know what was happening in your mind when you actually realized, like, this Munroe name, this Myles Munroe Jr. name wasn't so bad after all.
Yeah, I think, well, for me, well, obviously, when I moved home initially, for me, I thought, oh, I'm going to move home and going to do these amazing things, and we're going to open all of these businesses, and I'm going to get to where I want to be. I see myself being. And I had a rude awakening moment very, very quickly, you know, because for me it was always, you know, I came home and I was like, okay, Dad, let's go. We ready to do this. We ready to do that. I'm ready to be successful. Right. Because I expected it to just happen. And my dad sat me down and he was like, look, you have to go through this process. You know, it takes time to be successful. It takes time to achieve your goals. And just piggybacking off, you know, the question that I asked you, I had to humble myself and understand that we have to have humble beginnings. Like, you can't expect to just come out of the gate, you know, winning everything and being successful at everything. You know, you're going to fail sometimes. That's a part of the journey. That's a part of the process. It's a part of your development. Yeah. So that moment for me came when I had that initial conversation with him when, maybe I need to slow down a bit and just kind of temper my expectations in the sense that, okay, I'm not going to hit it out of the park every time. I'm not going to be the best or make the best decision maybe all the time, you know, because there were times where I just observed him, and he was very good with decision making because he took his time with making decisions. For me, I always felt like, okay, you choose between A and B, pick one. Right. There's no need to think about it. Pick one. Because either it's going to be the right decision or the wrong decision. Not thinking that that choice that we make affects so many other things into the future.
Man, it's funny you said that, because I'm thinking about when I was younger. You know, when you kind of have a foundation set for you, sometimes it can cause you to be lazy because you say, I don't have to work as hard, you know. My dad did all of this. I could just take the baton and continue to move. And so a lot of people would look down on us sometimes and say, oh, you have it so easy, you know, but they're not privy to the inner struggles that we have sometimes, trying to find our identity, trying to carve our niche, especially in a country like this where, you know, it's about the reputation, it's about the look. of things. And so when something doesn't quite look like what people expect it to, you know, they kind of look at that as a wrong instead of a difference. And how many times in this country, you know, do people come from diverse backgrounds? We go to diverse places, we have diverse experiences. But because it doesn't fall in line with what we think it should be in the Bahamas, we ridicule it. And a lot of times we push people into the corner simply because we don't understand that difference. And, you know, one of those things growing up was I just wished people understood that difference. And so I took the power from people. I said, you know what, I'm no longer going to allow people to just come to me and find out for themselves who I am. I have to show that to the world. And so I began punching back, I began fighting back. I didn't reject it, but I began pushing back at the notion that it's just you're Wayne Thompson's son. I am, true that, but I am also Harrison Thompson II. Let me show you what I can do.
Yeah, and I think for both of us, I mean, I think rebellion comes along with, you know, expectations. You know, you tend to run away from those expectations. And, you know, in what I shared, it was primarily, you know, it was the fear of becoming Myles Munroe that I was running from, as opposed to hating, you know, being Myles Munroe because of the expectations, until I kind of turn it around and reverse it on myself and say, hey, this is my responsibility. For you, I know you took on football as a release. So was playing football for you a sense of kind of discovering or developing who you were, as opposed to being, you know, Wayne Thompson's son?
Right.
Look, I'm Harrison Thompson, the football player.
Right.
Not the therapist like my father.
It's interesting. Football happened for a number of reasons. Number one, I wasn't that smart in math. And I wasn't so smart in some of my other subjects, but I was strong. And so I used that ability to kind of get me through school, because I didn't really catch myself until grade 11. And when I say catch myself, I really didn't start to focus on the significance of my grades, the significance of studying, and how important it was to really do well in those last years. But it just so happened that I had this opportunity to go off and play football, and it didn't just fall out of the sky. Like, let me tell you all the story. I literally had to go to Fort Charlotte almost every Saturday at about the same kind of time, film myself in the same kind of clothes, doing different drills, because I wanted to make sure that that video collage I put together was something that the coaches would say wow to, you know. And people looked at me crazy. They're like, man, no one's going to look at you from the Bahamas. They don't have football down here. What do you think it's going to cause a coach in the States to look at you when he has this big pool over here to pull from? And again, like I said in my talk earlier, so negativity is so prevalent in this country. It's so prevalent everywhere. You don't have to do much before you encounter negativity. And so I started sending out that video. 1 school, 2 schools, 3 schools, 4 schools, 5 schools, until I got a response from one. And I was real with the coach. I said, Coach, I've never played football in my life, but I can guarantee you every day I go out onto that field, I'm going to be better than I was yesterday. And the next reply was, here's how you get your student visa. And so understanding that kind of process, right, starkly different from the Thompson brand. You know, the Thompson brand is all about going straight into the academics. It's all about the accolades. But here I am now branching off. And initially, I met some strain. Oh, you sure that's what you want to do? Because, you know, you could study this or you can do something else. But then I had to be firm. I had to realize who I was to make sure that I protect what it was I thought was my vision. And so I really had to stand firm on who I was.
And you started out being a financier. You know, you got into banking, and you like you said, you know, when you were doing your presentation, you initially went to work excited to go. You know, you were making good money at the time, and you know, why not? You know, I'm excited to go to work. But as the months moved by, you realized that this really wasn't the thing that cut out for you. So you talked about you know, that moment that you realized. When was it that you realized that it wasn't so bad to follow in your father's footsteps?
And when I realized that money wasn't everything. After you get a certain amount of money, believe it or not, if your basic needs are met, it's kind of like a plateau effect. And so because we were usually bred to look at money as the be-all, end-all to success, When I got to the top of that mountain, there was no wind blowing, it was hot, mosquitoes were flying all up in my face. This is so anticlimactic. Like, I thought I was supposed to be balling and I was supposed to be on a music video and, you know, there are fancy cars and women all want me. I didn't get none of that. So, you know, I realized very quickly, like, yo, your life needs some depth. You know, we spend so much time on the shallow end of the pool because we fear the deep. But we fear the deep because we've been hurt before. Last time I took a risk, I fell and I bumped my knee. I don't want to bump my knee again. And so we get so conditioned to avoid making those mistakes, but our true purpose lies in the deeper side of the pool. And it's not just the deeper side of the pool, because when you go to the deeper side of the pool now, you either have the opportunity to go down low, like really dive deep into your purpose, or you can stay treading water. And so, you know, it's the same kind of experience. Sometimes I felt like I was where I should be on the deep side of the pool, but I was still scared to dive into it. And, you know, the first time I actually came back from school and I started working in the business with my father, I was on the deep side of the pool, but I was treading, and I was getting tired of treading. You know, I was sitting in my office every day. No one's calling. I'm handing out brochures. No one's calling. Did I make the right choice? But the true success was right under me the whole time. I just had to dive into it. And so until I dove into it, I was just going through a process. Coming into the office at 9 o'clock, leaving at a particular time, trying to respond to a particular email. But it wasn't until I actually dove into that process that I realized, wow, Harrison, you could do so much more.
You know, for me, 2014, you know, well, 2015, I should say, did a lot for me. After November 9th, 2014, I realized that before that, I was really just coasting with my life.
Right.
You know, I wasn't pushing the envelope because, you know, my dad was there. That's his job.
Right.
I'll just be there. I'll support him. But it wasn't until, you know, he was removed from the equation, like I realized, well, first of all, I didn't know that I would have been able to think, make decisions, envision, you know, things like this because I never had to.
Mm-hmm.
So I think sometimes, you know, we're placed in situations where everything is removed from us for us to realize, no, let me say this. Sometimes we fail so that we can realize that we can succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes we take success for granted.
Wow.
Or we take someone else's success as our success. And I think that's what I was doing with my father. I was taking his success, not saying that his success wasn't my success, but it wasn't mine as in this is my gift, this is what I've been given, and this is a part of now my personal success. No. You know, I was supporting him
Mm-hmm.
in being successful and achieving what he wanted to achieve, but it took me having to lose that crutch, is what I would call it,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of hindered me from being able to walk out and step on my own, for me to realize that I am capable of achieving this and these different things, and it totally changed my perspective on things.
What I find interesting with you, and even your sister, well, actually the four of you, because a lot of times we think we know the limits to what it is we can endure or what it is we can do. And it's because we live such guarded lives. You know, we develop these limited expectations that, okay, I know I can deal with this much. And I often try to tell my clients, you know, it's a good practice to kind of put yourself into a situation where you have nothing else to rely on but yourself and your passion. And you guys are actually a living example of that. How many days do people wake up, you know, and their car doesn't start properly, or the sole breaks on their shoe and their day is ruined? And they talk about, oh, I don't know how I'm ever going to make it to tomorrow. I mean, come on. Look at what people around us have been through, and look at what they are continuing to do. If that isn't a testament, my brother, to the strength and to the leadership that is within you and your sister, and to Renor and Taya, that is a powerful story. And so I want to ask you this question. Having gone through that, dealing sometimes with trying to be strong, maybe for your family, for yourself, or just for doing something like this, how do you find the time to make sure that you're staying true to Charo?
Yeah, great question. And that is something that I've actually made a decision that I will do. You know, in my in the first part of my presentation, I gave, you know, my first 3 points, which was self-love and confidence, self-awareness, and self-time. Time is the only thing that we can't change about ourselves. That everyone is given the same amount of time. What you do with your time is on you. For me, I know that I'm not like my father. I won't try to be like my father. You know, my father, his work ethic is by far the most intense work ethic I've ever seen. You know, from a personal standpoint.
Right.
I know there are a lot of people out there that has similar or higher, you know, work ethic. But for him, for me, just looking at him and seeing the way he traveled and the pull that was on his life, and you know, his happiness while he was doing it, never feeling strained, never feeling overworked, because he was in his passion. And I think that's one of the key things for him. So for me, I try to take time for myself. So there are times where I need to cut everything off and take time for myself. So I don't take any calls, I don't look at emails, and I take time to think and develop the thought that I have. You know, MEL didn't just pop out of the sky for me.
Right.
You know, MEL was a process that I had to go through. Okay, let's think of an event. What can I do? I want to do something new, something fresh, something we've never experienced before. What would that look like? And I kind of started to envision in my mind this entire, the look of this entire room, the look of this set. And that came because I took time to myself. Time is, personal time, not just time.
Yeah.
Time away from your regular daily movements is important, because that's when you get a chance to free your mind. You don't think about work. You don't think about what's going wrong. You don't think about what's going right. You're able to just relax. For me, going to the gym is important.
Oh man, preach it, brother.
Getting away from it. And you know, I go to the gym.
Yeah.
You have folks that go to the gym and they like to converse and ask you questions and this. Me, if I go to the gym, don't speak to me. I don't need any conversation. I don't want to know what you did last night or how you woke up this morning, or have conversations about even the game we might have watched last night. No,
Right.
I come to the gym so that I could get away from things.
Yeah.
I think about things. I exert the energy so I could renew myself and refresh myself, so that I can go and face the day that presents itself to me.
Yeah. I love the gym analogy. And of course, we have a lot of gym rats in here, right?
Yes,
So
definitely.
here's my philosophy on the gym, because you know what I do, it's emotionally taxing a lot of times to have to constantly give myself to people and to actually take on what people bring to me. And so when I go to the gym, I take on that very same mentality. But the thing I've used the gym for in the last 5 years is alignment. A 45-pound weight doesn't change. I could pick it up on a Monday, I could pick it up on a Tuesday at 5 a.m. in the morning, or I could pick it up at 6 o'clock in the evening. It's always going to be 45 pounds. But what I bring into the gym determines whether or not I can lift that 45-pound weight on any given day. And so on a Monday, I'm fresh off the weekend. I'm rejuvenated. That 45-pound weight is just flying. You know, I'm doing what I need to be doing. But then like on a Wednesday, I'm struggling a little bit. And I'm saying to myself, come on, Harrison, you big fella, you struggling to lift this 45-pound weight. What's wrong with you? But I realized, listen, Harrison, are you being true to yourself right now? Where is your mind? Because obviously this 45-pound weight hasn't changed. And so I start to think through as I'm going in my workout, and I'm like, wow, I hope I said the right thing to that client yesterday. I hope I did the right thing when I advised that person what to do with their relationship. And so if these are the kind of things that are present in the gym, I now know where I need to put my focus when it comes to rejuvenating myself. And it got to a point where I was so immersed in what I was doing, I didn't have any days off. Just because I started identifying myself with my career. But I had to take a step back sometimes and just unplug and realize, hey, listen, people are always going to have stuff going on. People are always going to want to call you. People are always just going to have something to say, or just a little text message, or just a moment of your time. And I had to stop feeling guilty for telling people no.
No is the best word you can use in your vocabulary.
Yeah, man.
My goodness. No, y'all know how important the word no is. And I have no God bless my father. That man could not say no. But that's who he was.
Yeah.
And he didn't have a problem saying yes all the time. Me, very different. No problem saying no, no problem speaking my mind.
That's child.
Unapologetic about it. Because, you know, like Talia said in our first MEL talk, you should never allow someone expectations to make you someone that you aren't, because it is going to kill you inside.
Yes.
You have to be yourself. Have to be.
That's powerful stuff, man.
Yeah, man.
And, you know, just to kind of put a cap on it, we look at no as being this big old dagger, you know, that's just very pointy and it has venom on the end. And when we say no, we're just easing that into the stomach of the person. And we feel so bad because it's like we're figuratively watching them die and suffer, because I know I probably could have done that. But see, this is why we have to start creating value in our own life. Because the first place that we usually take time away from is our sleep and doing things that we love to accommodate other things. But what happens when we don't get enough sleep? What happens when we don't involve ourselves with things that we love and enjoy? We become robotic. We become bland. We become without salt, tasteless, right? And so I had to start drawing those boundaries in my life, because in order for me to help you as best as I can, I have to help myself. And I think that's kind of where we draw the same connections, because we understand that while we have some things to do, while our name carries a lot of weight, we have to make sure that we are doing the best. We're taking care of ourselves in the best way so that we can continue moving forward in our own unique ways.
Definitely, man. I mean, just to close out, you know, our session kind of over time, but in your piece, I took some notes. Let me just go back to my notes, because it was one thing I wanted you to cover again. You said something that resonated with me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if he can go through what he went through, then what about me?
Right.
You know, that's I think and just going off of, you know, Ralph said something that really hit home for me as well, and he was going about how he got his job offer at Walmart. It was because of something that someone else experienced with someone entirely different from Ralph. Right. There was a connection between Ralph and that person. We never know what we do in life, how it affects someone else. So, you know, I guess my question is, how has that worked out for you in your profession? Because I know that you haven't experienced everything that, you know, your clients may go through, or anyone that that visits you may go through.
Right.
But how do you relate to, you know, so many scenarios that you're faced with? Where do you pull is it from your education, or is it from, you know, your father and the conversations you've had with him, or is it just from experiencing life?
All of those things are good supplements, but nothing worked better than connecting with my humanness. Everybody in this room has experienced sadness at some point, happiness at some point, pain, shock, hurt. And when I connect with that, I am able to experience that hurt through my client. And so it's no longer about, oh, Harrison, you've never been through this, you can't relate. That's a lie. I've been hurt before, and so if that hurt is anything like what I have felt, I now am able to impact you. I am now able to have sympathy and empathy. And so sometimes we have to separate ourselves from the person and really give a professional perspective. But other times I feel very led to just kind of talk what the Spirit gives me to talk, because a lot of times it shocks me. I'm only 27 years old. I've been married for 1 year. And the knowledge that sometimes just falls on me when I'm in the car, you know, shooting my videos for my Facebook page or whatever.
Plug.
Plug. I don't know where it comes from all the time. And it's scary to say that, because how can you be this and not know where this is coming from, right? How does that make people feel comfortable coming to you and talking to you? But the fruits of those labors are it's awesome. You know, I can go into a store sometimes and they're like, Harrison, come to the front. And I'm like, okay, I'll do that. But then I have to understand where that's coming from. And I can never allow myself to become so complacent to the fact that, hey, I've arrived, or I'm this now. I always want to remain a student forever and ever and ever.
Yeah, man, because it's a constant betterment of yourself.
Yes.
For sure, for sure. Well, I want to thank you, man. You know, Harrison, I met him, you know, just this year, and, you're wise beyond your age, man. You're only 27. I know you people look at you like, what? Every time you say that, because you truly, you're wise beyond your age.
Thank you so
I
much.
think you have a very bright future in this country and globally as well.
And you are also, Jairo, someone that I look up to because I see what you have been through. I see what you're accomplishing. I connect with you on so many levels. And so even when you don't know it, you're inspiring someone. And just letting you know and letting everybody in here know that I am one of those people as well.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.